Welcome to Ladies in Law, where real-world advice meets professional wisdom and empowerment in realms of law and business. Your hosts, Lisa Goucher, Dawn Smith, and Kellye Raymond, bring you innovative strategies, practical guidance, and inspirational stories. Join us as we inspire and support women to thrive in traditionally male-dominated fields. We're here to promote inclusivity and provide practical advice for success.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ladies in Law. We are so excited to have Megan Whiteside here with us. She is a great friend and a colleague in our fight against nursing home abuse and neglect. She's licensed in Maryland and DC. She is a mother of 4. She is a law firm owner and a trial lawyer first and foremost. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, ladies.
Yes, excited to have you here.
We are so excited to have you here. So, Megan, I think that I first started getting to know you, really get to know you like last year, maybe it's been a year and a half. And I have to say that when I first, before I knew you, my first experience with you was at an AAJ conference when you were carrying around your newborn baby and then passing the baby to a colleague while you were speaking and then back with the baby. So I was like, I have got to get to know this lady. So tell us what you're doing and tell us how you are managing all the incredible stuff that you're doing.
That's amazing, Dawn. And I didn't realize that. I love that you shared that story because it's funny. Taking baby James to the AAJ Winter Convention in Austin has been the best marketing I never could have paid for. And I didn't even intend it that way. But yes, I brought I think he was just about or close to 3-month-old baby with me to a lawyer conference, which, for those of you who are in AAJ, you know it. But if you don't know it, it's a massive national organization for trial lawyers like Dawn and I. And, you've got high profile lawyers from all across the country, thousands of people. Nobody brings their baby to a conference. And for me, I had just recently opened my firm, and for my family, there was no way I could go to this conference if I didn't bring the baby. And I actually spoke to a mutual friend of ours, Megan Shore, kind of hemming and hawing. Oh, should I go? I don't know. I have to bring the baby. How will that work? And she encouraged me to do it. Great friends will do that, where it's like, go, you're going to get a lot out of it. Who cares? And she actually made the joke then. She goes, Megan, I bet it's going to be like, people will remember it. And I said, well, that's not the reason I'm doing it, but okay. But it's so funny that you said that, Dawn. I didn't realize that that's how you sort of were introduced to me. But yeah, I take my role as mom, that full-time job. That's my number one priority. And it's a blessing and a pleasure to be able to also get to run a firm, to try cases and represent victims of nursing home abuse and neglect and their families. Because as you know, most times our clients have passed away because of the neglect. And to now walk through life and live in a world where I get to do both the way that I want to is there's not a word that could encapsulate how tremendous it is. It's not easy. So when you say, how do you do it all? I don't. I like to say you can have it all, but not at the same time. And so there's a lot of give and take. There are certain things that I absolutely cannot do and have to either dump or delegate. But I have figured out a way in my law practice to be able to be the lady who brings a baby to the lawyer convention and not care what people think and do what's best for my kids and my family, my husband, and what's best for my law practice. Because, the event that you and I were at where I spoke that started off that convention, I absolutely made connections and took away nuggets of information that were exactly what I needed at that moment. And if I hadn't been bold enough to take the baby with me and be there, I would have missed it. And so I'm really big on encouraging my fellow women in this profession to be bold, to be themselves, and to really cultivate the confidence that it takes to practice law your way and to live life your way. Because I certainly don't live my life in a way that any of the other preschool moms understand. Right. And I probably am living my life in a way that many lawyers don't understand. And that's okay because it works. And so that story, I love that you shared that. And you surprised me, right? You didn't tell me you were going to share it. I love that because it's this moment in time. I will always be proud of myself that I stepped out. And it was sort of the beginning of stepping out in my law firm ownership of doing this differently.
Yeah. And I think that that's the whole thing about it is like, I admire you so much because when I was, in my 30s and I had a brand new baby, I would, I had my son right before I graduated from law school. He was 6 months old when I took the bar. And then I had my daughter 4 years later. So I was right in the thick of it, practicing with two littles. And I gave up so much. Like I missed my son's kindergarten graduation, I think because I had to do a depo. And I was always so worried about, what colleagues were going to think of me if I had to cancel something for, to do a kid thing. And I tell everybody now when it comes up, know that you don't have to do that. Know that it's okay for you to say, I'm going to take the afternoon off to be with my family because that's the most important thing right now. I mean, it didn't feel okay to me. And I'm sure Lisa knows exactly what I'm talking about. It just didn't feel okay back then.
No, totally. It did not feel okay. There was no cohesiveness or balance momming and lawyering. I mean, I'm in the service industry, the court reporting industry, but same thing. I'm dealing with law firms and attorneys and in a legal environment. So like I am over here cheering you on, like what a wonderful mom move and how powerful that you were combining the two and the statement that, at the time you just thought was serving your immediate purpose, right? So after that, like the momming and the lawyering, was there a change after that, Megan? After that conference, did it give you even more confidence to just move forward and function the way that was going to work best for you?
So it's funny that you asked that because I think the real impact of that decision was less on me and more on the women in my orbit that conference and then thereafter who learned that I did this. And what I ended up doing was I took baby James with me to Austin, and then I took him to Newport Beach the next month because I had another speaking engagement. It was like these two amazing opportunities back to back with a very small baby. And in the moment, I spoke with my one friend about going to Austin, but then after doing that, I just decided I'm absolutely doing this again. I can do this. So it didn't feel like a big thing to me. But I will never forget at the first conference, I was approached by a younger woman. So remember, this is my fourth baby. Like, I don't think I would have had the guts or the just mental capacity to do this with my first baby, right? With your first baby, everything is overwhelming. It's hard to handle everything. You're a perfectionist about everything. You worry about everything, right? But by the time you have your fourth, your tolerance for chaos goes way up and your expectation of perfection goes way down. And you sort of just, you fumble through the chaos in a way that you're not as worried about it. So, but I remember at the conference, a younger woman who had just had her first baby, and her daughter was around the same age as my son. And she came up to me it was after the event that Dawn saw me speak at. There are receptions and dinners and things that go on in the days after. She came up to me and introduced herself. She said she saw me speak, and she saw me walking around the conference, either pushing a stroller or holding the little guy, right? Who's like, they're 3 months old. They're a lump when they sleep. They're just, there. And she said, I'm here. I didn't think I was going to be able to come, but I brought my baby and my husband, who's been watching her like in the room or doing things with her outside the conference. Like I can't believe I never even thought to bring her anywhere visible at this conference. I said, oh, bring her. Like, I'd love to meet her. And the next day at one of the receptions, she was carrying her daughter and came up to me, and I'm carrying my little son. And she's like, this is my daughter. And we had this lovely conversation. And I gave her permission to bring a baby to a lawyer event. I I'd say, 99.999% of the time, you're never going to see a baby at one of these type of receptions, right? But I gave her permission to do it. And she was so happy to have her daughter, her husband there, and they had, a wonderful time. And I hope that she carried forward some level of confidence from that experience. Now, I cannot tell you, I cannot count how many women who know me, who I have since met, like Dawn, who have commented on social media, when this story sort of started making the rounds, so many women publicly and privately who have said, I'm so glad you did that. Like, you were brave enough to be visible as mom in this very competitive, fast-paced, stressful profession.
Intimidating. I imagine it's an intimidating environment, and you were first.
And I've gotten to a point where I can honestly say I wasn't intimidated and didn't care, right? The people you can imagine, right? Walking around, there are CLEs, there are meetings, there are receptions, there are dinners where you don't expect to see a baby. Right. And so I would say half of the people were, oh my gosh, so excited. Like Dawn said, like, can I hold the baby? I passed the baby around plenty of times, and then half of the people are like staring at me either in disbelief or judgment. That's fine. Right. I don't care, but I don't think I would have been able to do that. I know I wouldn't have been able to do that as a younger woman and as a younger mom. Right. Because I actually had older lawyers say things to me, and a judge I can think of, right, during my young motherhood, really making it clear that they saw my motherhood as a weakness, that I wasn't, available to do as good of a job as someone else because I was a mom, right? It's not implied. Sometimes it is explicit in our profession. And I now have gotten to a point in life where the people that are for me, right? There are enough clients to go around. If another lawyer judges me and they don't send me a case, no problem. Right. If a client judges me and they don't hire me, they weren't meant for me. Right. Because being a mom is, I think, an asset. And if you don't see it that way, I'm not the right lawyer for you. Right. And so, but there's been a lot of internal work that I have done over the last several years that has gotten me from there to here. And so I was floored because I didn't intend it. Like, I wasn't on an advocacy mission by bringing the baby to the conference. I just wasn't going to be able to go if this baby didn't come with me, right? Like, he would not take a bottle. I was the food source. My husband, like, we legitimately tried for those 3 months to get this child to take a bottle, and he wouldn't. And I couldn't leave for a 4-day conference with this child not, reliably being able to.
We got to feed him. We got to feed him.
Poor baby James got to eat. And so, and it would have been the first time my husband would have been alone with 4. He has done it since many times, and he's awesome at it. But it just was that period of life with a little baby that you're like, okay, I could go, but the baby's got to come too. And so the fact that unintentionally it made an impact really sent an important message back to me that I need to keep showing up in a way that shows other women and shows men that being a mom doesn't mean that I'm less than as a trial lawyer, that it's okay to do both. In fact, you're going to get a lot more satisfaction out of life if you choose, if motherhood is for you, it's not a drawback. It's not a detriment. And you can take a lot of satisfaction, enjoyment by showing up how you want to as a mom and showing up how you want to as a lawyer. And that might be very different than women, you had to show up 15 years ago or 20 years ago. That might be very different than how certain law firm owners want their associates and partners to show up. And I think that we all have to start talking about maybe we need to step out of environments that don't serve us. Like, the traditional way can be fine for some people, but there are other ways to do this.
Yeah. So I guess the personal growth that you said that you've done that got you to the point where you're like, I mean, I get it because life gets crazy and you're like, look, I've got to go to this. And, we don't worry as much as when it's the first baby. And but like, how did you get to a point to where you got that confidence? You've got that, I don't know, there's something about you, Megan, that you're just you're kind of sparkly all the time. And I know you have days that are not sparkly, but how did you get to the point where you're just like, you know what, I can do this and I can step out of this box and step out of this mold and make something different for me that works for me? How did you do that?
So I think part of it is courage takes practice. And so I hit a real low at the end of 2019. So at that point, so I've done a lot of work from late 2019 to today to be the version that you see now, right? Because we all evolve through life. We learn better and we do better. And so at the end of 2019, I had a real low moment when my boys, my older two, had just turned 3 and 1. And if you looked at sort of the checklist of things to accomplish, I checked all of the boxes. I had an amazingly supportive and handsome husband. I had 2 healthy, amazing little boys who were growing and thriving. I had the house and the car, and I was trying cases to verdict in front of juries. And I was, all of the things, the career, the family, the this, the that. I checked all of the boxes and I was miserable. Absolutely miserable. And I think that every single person listening to this has had one of those moments where, I did everything I was supposed to do. I went to school, I got the job, I got married, I have the family, I have this nice life. Why doesn't that feel enough? Why don't I feel enough? I had really low self-worth. I was hypercritical of myself. I felt like I was failing as a mom and failing as a lawyer, just never good enough, no matter how hard I hustled, no matter how hard I worked. And I'll just never forget the boys. We had a big birthday party for them. Hot Wheels birthday party, about as Pinterest of a mom as I'm ever going to be. Right? I'm not a Pinterest mom. And our house was decked out, Hot Wheels themed. I had balloons for days. And after I put the boys to bed that night, after a really successful, beautiful party, all the people who loved them were there. I just sat there feeling so empty, like the deflated balloons that were down on the floor. That's how I felt, just deflated and empty and sad. And it was kind of this moment that I thought, I got to do something because I'm not showing up how I want to in all of these arenas in life. And at a certain point, these kids are going to see that. And I want better for them. I don't ever want them to feel this way. I don't want to feel this way anymore. And then 3 months later, the world shut down with COVID. That was rough. That was rough. So the blessing in that is that right at that time, a lot of life coaches were putting stuff out on social media and having webinars. Now, I was very resistant to anything about a life coach. I thought that was woo-woo. You hear about, affirmations and manifestation and life coaching and all the things. And I had all this resistance to it. But, I joke now, I had a therapist all during that really low period of early motherhood. I had a priest that I had known my whole life who knew me and my family, who just would give me the good, bad, and the ugly in terms of advice and observations. And so it's funny because my therapist and my priest both helped me identify what the issues were. I was real clear, in those really low moments, on what was underneath it all. But I hadn't found any strategies to fix it or to help. And I finally, during COVID, because I was at my wit's end and at my lowest, I got a life coach and learned strategies and tools that I use every single day. And I've had multiple different coaches, but I will be forever indebted and grateful to my first. And she helped me to, she saw the same issues that the others had seen. And I guess I should throw my husband in there too. He was trying to help. He knew what the issues were, but I had to do the work myself. That it comes down to thought work, it comes down to mindfulness, and it comes to a real belief in yourself. And that's really hard to do. It's easier said than done. I'm at a point now where other people's opinions of me are none of my business. My self-worth is not determined by anything external to me. So when you say that I'm a sparkly person, I have the lightness to be able to be joyful or sparkly or whatever you call it, because I don't have the weight of anybody else's expectations on me anymore. I don't care if you judge me or make fun of me. I just found out a professional colleague was saying some unkind things about me. I was really surprised by it. Just found out a week and a half ago. And I stopped the person who was telling me, like, before they could share any more details. And I said, you know what? Thank you for letting me know. I don't really want to know the substance of what they said. Like, just knowing that some things were said is enough. I'm good. Like, I'm informed, color me informed, but I don't want to know what that person said. And the person who was trying to tell me about it was really surprised. Like, but how are you going to do something about it? And I said, you know what? Her opinion of me is none of my business. And it was a saying that colleague had never heard before. And I was like, yeah, you know what?
I have never heard that before.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that. I really like it.
Well, and I think that we can all use it, because I'm not for everyone. You're not for everyone. You're not for everyone, right? We're going to rub somebody the wrong way. We are going to, our light is going to highlight an insecurity of theirs. And so they're not going to like it. So they're going to react, or, we're not doing things the way that they expect, plug in the role, mom, lawyer, business owner, whatever, daughter. We're not measuring up in some certain way. Okay. That's your expectation, not mine. Right. And so to the three things that I think have made the biggest impact that maybe anybody listening could try, even just one of the three, is identifying my core values. So what's the most important thing to me? And so once you identify it, then you try to live your life in accordance with those values. Thought work, which I can nerd out and go into all the details on it, but managing your mind. And that's what has helped me really believe that other people's opinions of me are none of my business. That's just one aspect of it, right? But doing the thought work, because life is hard and you have to be able to, to deal with it and not let it get you down. And then the last thing is really setting boundaries, internal and external. I don't let a lot in. Like the professional colleague who I thought was in my corner saying not so nice things about me, I'm not letting that in. I'm not letting her ruin my day or my week, or I'm not wasting any more mental energy on it, right? That's an internal boundary. And an external boundary is my time and attention. I've got 4 kids. I say no to a lot of social engagements. I want to be home for dinner. And I'll say yes to things like, taking the baby to Austin for a conference, or, I got to see Dawn. I was so thrilled doing the same conference a year later, in Miami, and I got to go without kids and have some alone time. I'll say yes to certain opportunities, but setting a boundary, saying no to a lot of stuff that, again, doesn't align with the core values, it makes it really easy to show up as like a joyful person, because I'm not tied down to things that don't matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that the core values is that, I think that's super key, because if you don't have some sort of frame of reference to make choices about what you want to do and what you don't want to do, you have no guide. There's no guide, because you are just trying to kind of put things together like a big puzzle, but the puzzle is, 3 different puzzles, so it's never going to fit together. So this was your life coach that kind of said, hey, have you thought about personal core values, and let's sit down and try to do that?
So interestingly, it wasn't until my 3rd life coach that I sat down to do the core values work, but I had read books and listened to podcasts and been in circles of women where I'd heard people talking about it, but hadn't really taken the time to do it. And it sort of helped everything click. You take, those of us who are personal development junkies, it's like you take a little bit here, you take, this book, I'm going to take this. And it was the core values idea sort of crystallized a lot of different concepts, where, like you said, it's like that framework for decision making, where it's, this is why it's important to set this boundary, because I'm only doing that for somebody else's expectation or somebody else's need or want. It doesn't actually fit into what I want or what I truly care about. And so the core values exercise with a later life coach sort of made a light bulb go off on something I had tried with neuro-linguistic programming. But like I said, I've tried all of these different things, but I grew up with very well-meaning parents who gave me, unfortunately, a framework to operate within that didn't serve me. So I grew up in a very critical environment, high expectations. Like perfection was expected. And I think that my parents did the best they could, right? They wanted me to be successful. And so they would say on almost a daily basis, successful people work hard. The last thing you want to be is mediocre, Megan. You have to work hard. And I'm grateful for that because it got me to where I am, right? It pushed me to be very successful in school. I think it was a foundation where I was able to launch my life and go to law school and do all the things. But once I was, trial lawyer, mom, wife, trying to be this like perfect person and working hard at all the things, you get to a point in life where you have so many roles and identities that you cannot possibly be perfect at all of them. And it was crushing. And with the help of neuro-linguistic programming, I was able to realize that that was like a mantra that was playing under the surface for me, where if it didn't feel hard, then I wasn't good enough and I wasn't going to be successful. I was going to end up being mediocre, and mediocre is like devastating, right? And so if I wasn't hustling and working long hours, or like everything had to feel hard, or I was afraid I wasn't good enough. And that is no way to live. That is no way to live. And what I realized through that exercise and then the core values exercise later is that I've rewritten that. Successful people are happy. And that is now my mantra. And my core values are joy, family, and service. And so if it doesn't bring joy, if it doesn't support or uplift my family, or if it isn't an avenue where I can serve in some capacity, I'm likely going to cut it out of my life. And so that means setting some boundaries with the people and the energy you have in your life. If you are constantly complaining, I'm not going to be spending a lot of time with you, because that doesn't bring joy. That brings down the joy, that focuses on lack and hard. And I don't want that. Right. And, if I'm taking an opportunity because in some way it's a selfish exercise and not an exercise for service, or it's not helping my family, or not really making me joyful or happy, I can feel it. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. And then I really sit and think, I'm like, oh no, it doesn't fit into one of these buckets. And it's not perfect. Life is 50-50. Like, you're going to have hard days. You're going to fall out of, alignment with what you really want and go down a path that doesn't serve you. And it's sort of the work is giving yourself some grace when you have a bad day, or yell at your kids, or yell at your spouse, or procrastinate on something that you really need to get done, or, you fall down and mess up something at work, or whatever it is. Then the thought work is like getting you back on track to say, like, okay, I'm a human being. That was a mistake. How can I reframe my thoughts about it so that I can then, take the next step? So it's the life coaches I've had have really given me like these tools that you use at different points. But I think it has led to a lightness that instead of feeling weighed down and under pressure all the time, even in some really high stress or what should be high pressure situations, especially in our work, it's given me a chance to just take it in stride. And I'm so grateful that there are people with the training and the abilities to coach, high achieving, high striving women. And I think more of us need to take advantage of them, because I just see so many professionals who are unhappy and miserable and feeling like they're not enough. And I just want everybody to feel better about themselves. How much more powerful and amazing and impactful can we be if we as a collective let go of some of these things?
Well, Megan, I think like so many of our friends and followers are going to totally resonate with what you're saying, because just most of the women, they're just overachievers. They're like, it's like a balancing act, right? So my question is, how did you even start the search
for your first life coach. And then I'm just guessing that now you see that this is an integral part of your life that, that'll even be a process that evolves. So speak to how somebody would actually start out.
Yes. Oh, I love this question. So I have no explanation for how I found her, except that it was a divine intervention. I think that God had a plan for me and knew exactly who I needed to see on social media. And then we were at the same virtual event during COVID, like people were having these like virtual conferences and things. And so it was like she kept showing up for me on social media, and then at this virtual event, and then she was putting on a webinar, and I attended, and I fell in love with her, and she's just an amazing person. And so I think that there are ways that social media can be used for good, that there are women, and I'm sure there are amazing male life coaches too, but just for what I needed and what I continue to need, a woman life coach has been for me. But this first woman just was placed into my life for a reason and spoke to me on the real pain points I was having at that time. I knew I had certain abilities to, and now I can say in my core value of service, I think that what I do for a living is all about service. I'm showing up for families who have gone through such traumatic events and deaths of their loved ones, and I can show up and guide them through the process and get justice for them. That is the ultimate service. I love what I do. So there are women out there, I think, that maybe listening to this thinking, I am made for more than this. Like, this is not where I thought I would be right now. And I have those feelings still, right? I'm about to have a milestone birthday. And I think in my head, there were going to be things I would have accomplished by now that I haven't. And so I have these thoughts I'm dealing with, these shoulds that I'm shoulding all over myself. But we don't do that, right? And I have had amazing life coaches who've given me the skills to go, okay, wait, let me recognize that thought. That's not helpful. Let me go back and work through some of these tools. So I think to find a life coach, social media can be a great resource. I think to find a coach, speaking to, surrounding yourself with women who are where you want to be, right? Like Dawn, this is one of the things that I love most about you, because you have accomplished so many things that I am excited to accomplish, And so I love talking with you about business and family. And so when you get into circles with women who you admire and who have accomplished things that you're striving for, you may find that some of them are working with life coaches who can give you a referral. Life coaches now will do a lot of things remotely. I have never had a life coaching session in person. They've all been on Zoom or the phone, and it is fine. I think it would be fun to do it in person. It would feel more like the appointments I had with my old therapist. But life coaching can be remote. And so your life coach could be in California or Illinois or New York. And so social media, the women who have what you want, who have accomplished what you want to accomplish, ask them. It might not be something that they talk about all the time, but they'd be willing to share it with you. And then there are certification programs that life coaches can go through, different ones. I'm sure they have resources through those training programs of like the people who train the life coaches and they also still coach. Those might be good people to meet. But I would say find someone you're comfortable with, because you're going to be working through some stuff. I mean, I bared my soul. I cried. And there are still things that, all of us struggle with something. Social media and the highlight reel that you see is just the good. Everybody's got the bad. Like it's the human condition, right? You're going to have hard things, devastating things. There'll be days that go really poorly. It happens to everybody, not just you. And so find somebody that you're comfortable with to share the good, bad, and the ugly, because you really want to have someone you're comfortable talking to, who really, can get in those issues with you and give you some strategies to come out of them.
Like the real stuff.
The real stuff. We all got real stuff. We don't want to talk talk about all of the real stuff on the public forum like this, but we don't want to put it on our firm Instagram.
Come on, Megan, give us something really juicy. Come on, we want to go viral, girl. Pour out of it. You know, I wish we had a video of you at the conference with the baby passing it off. I mean, like that stuff is so authentic and real. You know, that's the kind of stuff that really strikes chords.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And thank you for that very nice compliment. I have to say, I look up to you too. So when it comes to like being around people that you admire and like Lisa, that's why Lisa and I started this podcast, because we like spending time with each other. We learn and we grow from each other. And then we have amazing people on like you that we get to learn and grow from. So, I mean, that's the whole impetus to this podcast, and surrounding yourself with people that you believe in and that are somewhere in a place where you want to be or you're striving to be. It absolutely can't hurt to be next to them and go through, life experiences with them. So thank you so much for being on, Megan. This was so great. We really appreciated you being on and just sharing this with us. And hopefully this will inspire others to realize that everybody has bad days. You can do something right now. You can write down, do a core value exercise. You can set boundaries. You can start doing some positive talk. You can get a life coach. So there's so many things that you can do to really help yourself get to that next level where you want to be, so that we are joyful. I think everybody probably likes to be joyful.
And I think that also there's I think that when you're in the hard, I'll share this last little bit, because I remember being in the hard and seeing women who I thought had it all figured out and who had these joyful existences that just seem so foreign. It's not, you're not going to go from like the depths of, low self-worth and despair to everything is light and airy and joyful. I spent many years on that arc to what you see now. And so you can't compare your chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 20, right? And they're just like little things. It's like muscle memory, right? Or it's forming that habit loop where like you all have habits. Like my habit is I wake up and I want a cup of coffee. That is a habit that is so deeply ingrained, right? And I look forward when I go to bed for my cup of coffee in the morning, right? There are things you can do, little habits that build and build and build so that it becomes as ingrained as waking up and having a cup of coffee. So like when you have the negative thoughts or the negative self-talk, reframing those to, instead of going from negative to positive, because that might not be attainable. Maybe you go from negative to neutral. So instead of for example, women, all through the phases of life, our bodies change and we have thoughts about it, right? And so instead of saying like, I hate my body to like, I love my body, maybe you can't go from that negative to positive. Maybe you can go from, I hate my body to, I have a human body. I birthed 4 children. And I have a human body of a mother with 4 children. And that is a neutral thought, right? And now we're laughing and smiling because there's now sort of a positive thought behind it. Because I can look at my lumps and bumps and my breasts are gone and all this and say, you know what? I nursed 4 babies. That's pretty awesome. And I have a positive thought about it as I sort of have I can laugh at myself too. But if you're in the depths of it, maybe you go from negative to, I have a human body, or I mess everything up. I can't believe I messed up that big thing, to, I'm a human who makes mistakes. And then maybe you're reframing your thoughts that you can get to, like, oh, that mistake was absolutely for me. That happened for me, not to me, because this obstacle, I created this workaround and solution to it that I never would have had to do otherwise. And this is a better result, right? You can start to reframe those thoughts to give yourself permission to fail, to give yourself permission to be imperfect, whomever standard you're taking on, to say, you are pretty amazing. It is not conceited. It is not a problem to be your number one fan. Because if you're not, who is, right? So you can look in the mirror every day and say, I am amazing. Maybe that doesn't feel authentic or real yet, but there's work you can do where you will get to a point where you believe it. And that is pretty awesome.
Oh my gosh. Before you go though, we haven't even said how anyone can connect with you. And we haven't even said what your business is. So would you please do a plug for your business? And, if it falls within your realm of however you connect with other women, how would they reach out to you if they had a question? Of course, we've got the followers can comment here or email us at hello@ladiesinlaw.com. But Megan, please share.
Oh, I'd be glad to. Yes. So my law firm is Whiteside Legal, PLLC in Washington, D.C. I serve families who have lost loved ones to nursing home abuse or neglect in Washington, D.C. and Maryland. I also co-counsel nationally, Pro Hoc Vice. If you're not a lawyer, that just means I will enter in a different state for the purpose of your case on a case-by-case basis, working with another local trial lawyer. You can go to whitesidelegal.com, find me on all of the socials at Whiteside Legal. I also have a passion project. I'm a big advocate for lawyer moms, so you can find me on my personal side is at Mom Life and Law on Instagram predominantly. I'm also on LinkedIn. Search my name, Megan Whiteside, or the Mom Life and Law podcast. I love going to. If you need somebody to come and speak to small groups on your bar associations or national groups or trial lawyers associations, I speak to issues affecting lawyer moms and women in our profession. So I'd love to connect. If any of you want to reach out, Megan at whitesidelegal.com. Find me on social. It's actually me behind the social. So if you send me a DM, I will reply. And don't be afraid. There's no question's a silly question. We are all evolving, and if I've dealt with something and made my way through it and you have questions and you don't know where to turn, I'm happy to be a resource to hopefully connect you with someone who can help you through it. Or just be a friend.
I need to know right now, once again, what's the Instagram? Because I need to send you a request.
Okay. So at Whiteside Legal or at Mom Life and Law. That's the one that's really the fun one, especially for working moms. And
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I thank you both for the opportunity. This has been fun.
Oh, we love having you on. We'll have you on again too. There's so many other things to talk about.
Let's do it.
Thanks for being with us today. And I'm sure I will see you soon. Like in just a couple weeks. Yeah, that's right. After my trial, after I win my trial.
We're going to win your trial and we're going to celebrate.
That's right. Thanks, Megan.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Ladies in Law. We hope you're walking away inspired and ready to shake things up in law and business. Don't forget to hit subscribe and let us know what you think. Spread the word and share this podcast with your network. Follow us on socials for all the behind-the-scenes fun and sneak peeks of upcoming episodes. Until next time, keep rocking it, keep breaking the mold, and as always, keep aspiring to inspire.